No way he just said this. One of the Texans offensive linemen has stepped up, talking good, praising the offensive line for what it needs to be talked about, because realistically it hasn't been talked about enough. And looking at it, all the analysts have badmouthed this offensive line, saying, oh, the Texans O-line is not good. Well, finally, one of the veterans has stepped up, and I was waiting for one of the veterans to talk good about this team, and now it looks like it's all shaping up, and the offensive line could be a strength for the Houston Texans heading into this season. Now, if 75% of you are not subscribed, if you want to stay up to date with all Texans news, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I want to say thank you guys for all the support on the past videos. And realistically, let's talk about it. No fluff here. So 33-year-old left guard Laken Tomlinson, again, it was kind of called a undermining of a signing. It wasn't a very good move in terms of some analysts' perspective, but Tomlinson has came out saying, I believe this offensive line will be the strength of the team. And I can't disagree with him. He's got a point. And when you look at where this team was at last year, one of the worst offensive lines, giving up a lot of sacks, a lot of that was due to the fact of their injuries up front with Shaq Mason. So a lot of these players want to prove themselves. Blake Fisher in his second year. You have, a new rookie, Ariante Ursary. And they want to be the backbone of the team. They want to be the foundation. So why not get a veteran who's got a good vocal presence, who's only missed one game since 2019. He has not missed multiple games since then. I mean, this guy's a beast. You look at him play football. Do not look at his stats. Do not look at his PFF grade. Oh my gosh, PFF grade's crazy. But I'm excited to be here to exercise that. That's awesome. And I mean, you gotta love Laken Tomlinson. You gotta love his grit. And he's 33. If anyone knows Laken Tomlinson, he was really good back on his 49ers days. But now he's kind of, became a veteran, slowly, still around the league. I was kind of surprised that they signed him last season. But to just go into this a little bit deeper, this is the period right now that makes or breaks the offensive line. It won't be in the season. It could be. But looking at it, most likely they're either going to burn their bridges now and not like each other, or they're going to, work together. Offensive lineman, remember, it's a newer offensive line. There's only really 2-3 guys that stayed on this team from last year. Kenyon Green got shipped out. Laremy Tunsil left. They traded him. Shaq Mason got cut. And this is kind of what I want to get at here. But Laken Tomlinson is mainly here because of his Iron Man kind of career. And he got released from the Jets. That was kind of where he had that disappointing 3-year big contract after having a good rookie kind of stint with the 49ers. And then he got that deal, got released, had a 1-year kind of saga with the Seahawks, and now he's back here. So Tomlinson, talking about the team, it's looking good, and the chemistry needs to start building now. And that's where I go back to this is this is a crucial part of the season, because if you're not in rhythm come season, I mean, that's really where your offensive line collapses. If you're not, paying attention, watching for Stroud's cues, because this is really the year where the Texans offensive line, not the offensive line, but the offense in general is going to flip the script. And realistically, the script right now from everyone talking bad about how, and I've said this before, but it feels like this is the Bengals team back in 2021 where they went on that run of the Super Bowl and they took Jamar Chase with that controversial first-round pick. Now, the Texans, they didn't have a first-round pick. They traded back. They also didn't have a top 10 pick. They also didn't draft Jamar Chase. Well, they could have. I mean, we don't know what Jaden Higgins is going to offer, but I love the pick because it's like, you need wide receiver. Tank Dell is not coming back this year. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but most likely that's not good news. You have nobody behind Nico Collins. You got Christian Kirk. Great. You need a number 2. And there was not going to be a number 2 guy to step up. It wasn't Christian Kirk. Kirk's your slot receiver. So getting Jaden Higgins in the draft, and all of a sudden, now the rumors are like, oh, the offensive line is, what are they Texans doing? They should have taken an offensive lineman with their first pick. They took an offensive lineman 10 picks later, by the way, just to point it out. But I know everyone's had enough with the rumors. Everyone's had enough with the, what's going on here? This is never going to happen. Well, this is not a rumor. Laken Tomlinson speaking his mind about the team. This is a very important time. OTAs are where you establish chemistry, and the news has been pretty dead. I know it's 4 minutes in, but I want to say apologies for not being here for the past 6 days. It's been a kind of wild week if you can't see the scenery behind me. But back to Texans for a second. Laken Tomlinson going to be a very important part of this team because you look at it, Tomlinson has not been the highest regarded player in terms of how he played last season. He let up 7 sacks. He wasn't great in pass protection. He was a decent run blocker. But those are the guys that are given the stats. And if you look at the stats for offensive linemen, I'm sure you're going to find somebody that looks better on paper. But the reason the Texans got Laken Tomlinson was because he's a bruiser. He's 33 years old. He's dominant as a run blocker. And that's what I looked at is the whole Texans line as a whole. It looks like Cam Robinson can run block. Laken Tomlinson, well, he can run block pretty well too. Right guard, Titus Howard, I wouldn't say a new position because he's played guard, but he hasn't had as many snaps as he's had at guard as he had tackle, so his stats are misleading. The point is, this is a run-first team now because you look at the offensive line and they can run block. Last year, Shaq Mason playing injured with an ankle injury, and he had a good first year with the Texans. This second year, horrible. And getting Laken Tomlinson, yes, it is 100 times better than getting some rookie who we don't know is going to be anything. Not to mention, the Texans had a late first-round pick. Yes, you could have taken a chance on the Ohio State tackle, Josh Simmons. I'm pretty sure if that is correct. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But that was a risk too. He's coming off a patellar tendon in his knee. So I don't mind what the Texans did this offseason. And Laken Tomlinson, finally a veteran who I was waiting for. It's like, you got all these veterans on this team. Is any of them going to speak up and be like, yeah, I want to be here. This is great Houston, right? So Tomlinson has been on the Seahawks. He's been on the Lions, the Niners, the Jets. Hasn't missed a game. Hasn't missed one game since 2017. Now, saying that, don't want to jinx him. I'm sorry if that scared anyone who's wearing headphones, but you have to knock on the wood here because that is incredible. What an Iron Man career for Laken Tomlinson. So he can be that player for the Texans that they need to show up every day to will this team to victory, and that's kind of what he is saying here in terms of having chemistry now, establishing reads, and just being as a unit. Listening to checks at the line of scrimmage if Stroud's going to check. But again, it's a bigger season because you have a new offensive coordinator, same O-line coach and Popovich, but that's what you're looking forward to is how can this offensive line play together? Because last year there was a bunch of individuals. They weren't bad players, but they didn't play together. Tunsil didn't lead the team. You had Shaq Mason, who was supposed to be this veteran, and he just didn't show up. He was injured. Again, Trent Brown is a veteran. I don't know if he's even going to start, but this is all a matter of what do the Texans want to do with this offensive line in OTAs before the season starts. So that is the biggest thing that you're looking forward to right now. And, this right here is probably the turning point of Tomlinson's kind of career because he got that big contract, got released, went to the Seahawks. So he's been all over the place. But this is the period right now for the Texans. You have Nick Chubb, you have Joe Mixon, and the next video we're going to talk about is the fact that why do the Texans have so many running backs and how are they going to kind of move it? Because all the analysts are saying that how much time does Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon have left? They really only need to play good for this season and potentially go after a Super Bowl. But I want to look at that last line because that is just funny. That just sounds like an offensive lineman who's willing to be somebody who not only stands it for his quarterback, but I just really want to kick the living out of somebody. I don't know. That's just the spirited offensive lineman at heart. So you love to see that from Laken Tomlinson, and I just honestly can't wait for some football. It's been so long. We do have a football game, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of July, there will be a preseason football game, so that's kind of funny. But the season's coming up. It's slowly approaching, and you got a couple months. You're going to hear the same rumors come up about, the offensive line, this, that, the other. You're going to hear a lot of bogus about why did the Texans take a wide receiver. And I think it's going to prove to a lot of fans that you can be okay without an offensive line that is elite. And I've talked about this in past videos, but you do not need a top 10 offensive line to win a Super Bowl. Yes, it helps, but having a top 20, top 15, as long as you're middle of the pack and you are not horrendous, you can make things work. And yes, Joe Burrow, that season he went to the Super Bowl, that line was bad. He really had only 3-4 seconds to throw the football. But I really think this line this season, what the Texans did, was very strategic. They went after veterans. They went after players that can fit the mold of this offensive line and play together as a unit and as a team. Yes, training Tunsil wasn't the best ideal play, but it was because he's getting older. He's got a big contract coming up. In a couple of years, you're going to have to pay him another $30 million a season because that's the player that Tunsil is, and that's the player that you're going to pay that kind of money. And I think the Texans just got fed up with it, and especially after the close to 20 penalties last year, that was enough. And you need to have players that are disciplined on the offensive line. If you can have disciplined players that are not holding, Cam Robinson, we'll see what happens there, but he does hold a lot. If you can have disciplined players who do not draw flags and Stroud can just get the ball, that would be incredible. Because you look at the team last year, a lot of plays get called back that could have been touchdowns that were penalties. So you cannot have that. I'm looking forward to this team, but let me know your guys' thoughts, not only on Laken Tomlinson, but his thoughts on the team, because this is a very important part, critical part of the offensive line and their process of getting ready for the season. Not just the offensive line, but the offense, the defense. I think the defense has a little bit more leeway because they had such a great season and they just kind of need to stay connected. But looking at the offense, it's a new group, so you need to be in tune in the offseason, in OTAs, preparing for the season with the new offense. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest. Hit that sub button for me if you're new, and let me know your thoughts in the comments once more. But apologies for the delay of being gone so long. We're going to try and get consistent here in the process of a move here, so appreciate anything in the comments as always. And then I'm just going to end this before I stop. But thank you so much once again. Appreciate all the support in the videos, and we'll see you in the next one.